Imagine getting stranded on a deserted island with your terrible coworker, and it's about to get so much worse. Today I'm recapping and reviewing the new 2026 survival horror Send Help. We start with Linda hard at work when she's interrupted by Donovan, who's looking for the company report. Xavier Samuel showing up was a nice little treat. I'm hoping he doesn't immediately die. Donovan takes the reports to the meeting, but Linda isn't invited because they're keeping numbers small for this one. But he reassures her that everyone will know who did the work. Sure. Linda then talks to her coworker River about how they have to keep climbing the stairs to success one step at a time, but it's pretty obvious that River doesn't really like her. Then their coworker Chase invites River to karaoke after work, and Linda assumes she's invited too, but everybody gets awkward and then Chase walks away. She then sneaks a peek into the meeting and sees Donovan taking her name off the report, telling everyone that he spent all night working on them. And never mind, Donovan can die. At home, Linda makes dinner and talks to her bird about how she did all the work but didn't even get to attend the meeting. She talks about how Bradley Preston is taking over as president from his father tomorrow and how she's next in line for VP. She also mentions that Bradley was flirting with her at the Christmas party, and I have a feeling she's going to be extremely disappointed by this man. She shares some bread with her bird and then watches Survivor. And I hope this isn't where she gets all her survival skills from. The next day at work, Bradley is introduced as the new president. Linda chats with him, but he's distracted by some food on her face, and honestly I get it, but probably should let her know. Moments later, Bradley discovers tuna fish on his hand from Linda and is absolutely disgusted. A coworker, Franklin, explains that Bradley's father relied on Linda a lot and she's next in line for VP, but Bradley says Donovan is gonna get the position instead. He also wants Linda's office moved far away because she makes him sick. Yikes. Franklin argues that the company would basically fall apart without Linda, so Bradley agrees to bring her on the company retreat to help Donovan get up to speed. Linda notices Bradley and Donovan joking around, and River reveals that Donovan got the VP position because he and Bradley were in the same frat and play golf together. It's very realistic. Linda's obviously upset and goes to confront Bradley while he's interviewing another woman. She demands a meeting and tells him she's upset about not getting the promotion. She's been there for 7 years, while Donovan's only been there for 6 months. I'd be annoyed too. Bradley tells her that she's great with numbers, but he doesn't think she's ready for an executive position. He says he needs someone who's a people person, someone who's well-liked, can charm a room, and make some deals. He's low-key not wrong, because she doesn't seem very well-liked at the office. However, he tells her that she has the confidence and wants her on the plane to the Bangkok merger so she can prove him wrong. Then his fiancée Zuri walks in, and Linda realizes Bradley isn't actually single like she thought. Awkward. He also tells Linda he's received complaints about her, specifically the tuna smell, and he tells her to keep her lunch in the break room. Linda holds back tears and reminds herself that she's enough exactly the way she is. The next day, Linda shows up for the plane ride, and Bradley is clearly surprised that she actually came. She continues working on the plane while Donovan shows the guys her old Survivor audition tape. And it's good to know she actually has survival skills, knowing where this movie is headed. The guys laugh at her and she gets embarrassed and deletes all the work she's been doing. She probably realizes at this point no amount of work she does will get her where she wants to be with these guys as her bosses. Then the plane hits turbulence and breaks open. The 3 unseated guys are thrown around. Donovan even starts choking Linda, trying to force her to give him her seat, which is insane. Linda manages to save herself and the 3 guys are launched out of the plane. Plane crashes into the ocean and Linda escapes from her seat, but now she's alone in the middle of the water in a storm. Luckily, there's an island nearby and she washes ashore. But she's not the only survivor. Bradley also made it. And unfortunately for him, he has a pretty bad leg injury. Linda immediately goes into survival mode. She starts making tools, creating a knife out of a rock, cutting vines and sticks to build a shelter, and setting up coconut bowls to collect rainwater. She cares for a passed-out Bradley in the shelter while it rains overnight. The next morning, Bradley wakes up and Linda gives him some of the rainwater she collected. And if this was a romance movie, he'd probably start falling for her. But unfortunately, this is a horror movie, so. She tells him there are no other survivors and that he's been unconscious for a day and a half, and he actually thanks her, which is unexpected. Linda then starts a fire and cooks some fish. Bradley doesn't want to eat it, which is real, but Linda makes him. That night, Linda seems happy, crying tears of joy, and either she's happy to be alive, or she prefers this life to the one she had before already. The next day, Linda's excited to find more food, and Bradley asks how long she thinks they'll be stuck there. She doesn't know, but she figures they're somewhere in the Gulf of Thailand. Bradley suggests they should focus on building a distress signal, but Linda says that's not the priority. She says they should keep doing what they're doing, and she doesn't think their situation is that bad. She tries helping him to his feet and comments that he has soft baby hands, and Bradley immediately reminds her that she needs to be careful how she speaks to him because she still works for him. And there's the old Bradley. Linda gets upset and walks away. Throughout the day, Bradley gets more and more angry that she left him alone. Overnight, the wind destroys his little shelter, and the next morning, he's dehydrated, sunburned, and looking a lot less confident. Linda eventually comes back and gives him some water, reminding him that they're not in the office anymore. And he can't really do much about it because he's relying on her to survive. Later, Linda decides to hunt a boar, and it's huge and acts like it has rabies. But she kills it, and there's lots of blood and snot. As an animal lover, I did not enjoy this scene. Linda brings the head back to Bradley, covered in blood, and lets him know that she likes hunting, which probably isn't super comforting in his position. But that night, they eat the meat and laugh about how Linda literally brought home the bacon, and they start kind of bonding. The next day, Linda discovers a waterfall and then a boat. But as I suspected, she decides not to get rescued, which is definitely concerning. Back at camp, Bradley is frustrated that nobody's found them for 2 weeks. He wants to start building a raft, but Linda says that should be their last resort. She also suggests that the island isn't so bad, but Bradley says this is the last place on Earth he wants to be. And we can see why. Linda finally has control over her life, while Bradley has lost control of his. Bradley hobbles off, reminding her that he's a CEO, and Linda responds that he's only there because of his father. So naturally he fires her, but she doesn't care because they're literally on a deserted island. God, it won't be in the office tomorrow, Chief. Bradley tries creating his own camp, and it goes horribly. He makes a distress signal, but unfortunately it says Heppel. Meanwhile, Linda is thriving. Starving, Bradley even tries to eat a live beetle. I hated that. And so did Bradley because he immediately spits it out. Eventually, he crawls back to Linda, and suddenly he's much nicer. He apologizes, said he underestimated her, and asks to come back to her camp. She asks if he's willing to go above and beyond for her, referencing the interview he did with the other woman earlier. And of course, Bradley thinks she means something sexual, but Linda shuts that down, saying she's not like him and she would never do that. And she shares her food that looks like a Korean barbecue spread. I don't know how she does it. She also now has a knife that she claims washed ashore, which I doubt. A few days later, Bradley is walking better, so Linda takes him on a hike up a cliff. I don't know if bringing someone with a still healing leg injury up a cliff is the best idea, but okay. Up there, she teaches him which berries are safe to eat. Apparently, yellow, green, and white berries are dangerous, and if you're ever unsure, you can rub them on your skin first, and if there's a reaction, you don't eat them. I love when movies teach me new things. She also points out a part of the island covered in poisonous plants and thorns and tells him not to go there. And I started suspecting there's something over there, like a resort, like in that movie Love Wrecked with Amanda Bynes. But anyways, the cliff breaks underneath Linda and she slips, and Bradley saves her. So maybe he isn't all that bad. Later, Linda brings green bananas back to camp and puts them near the fire to turn starch into sugar. More fun facts. She also reveals she's been working on making fermented fruit into wine, so that night they get drunk. Linda talks about her bird and reveals she was married for 10 years. Her husband died, but she admits he wasn't a nice person. She says she doesn't think he knew how to love. Bradley relates, saying his parents were the same. He barely knew his dad and grew up with an abusive mother. She tells him that monsters aren't born, they're created, and she says Bradley is a monster, but it isn't his fault. He asks how her husband died, and Linda explains that he was a drinker and he did terrible things that night, so she gave him the car keys and let him drive away, and he died in an accident. They seem to be bonding well, but Linda says they should never leave, and Bradley doesn't seem to share that sentiment. The next morning, Linda wakes up hungover and finds Bradley bathing naked in the water. And she definitely has feelings growing for him. Not sure it's mutual, though. Later, a storm destroys their shelter, and they have to take refuge in a cave and use their body heat to stay warm. This is her YN moment. But the movie's half over, and there hasn't been any horror yet, so I was starting to think they misgenre'd it. Is that a word? Genre. In the morning, their camp is destroyed, and Bradley suggests they rebuild somewhere higher up this time, so they start building again. Bradley wants to use the knife to make things easier, but Linda tells him that he needs to learn how to do things without it. Later, Bradley wants to go for a walk to the top of the cliff, and Linda goes along. I don't think she trusts him going off alone. Wonder why. Up there, Bradley thanks her for everything she's taught him and says that if they get rescued, their time together wasn't a waste. He then offers to make her dinner, and immediately I'm suspicious. It's been calm for too long, and I'm thinking the horror is coming. He makes her this whole spread, and again, I don't know how they're making food on a deserted island look this good. But just as I suspected, Linda starts feeling dizzy and sick after eating. Bradley reveals he made a raft and starts dragging it to the water, and I already know this man is not gonna get very far, and I was right. The raft immediately starts breaking apart and Bradley gets thrown underwater by a wave. While he's drowning, he starts imagining Zuri, but Linda saves him, and then immediately throws up all over him. A few times. It's very romantic. The next day, Bradley admits he was only trying to knock her out so he could escape, but Linda kinda forgives him. Kinda. She says it would take a lot more berries than that to kill someone, which is a weird sentence to say to someone who just tried to kill you. He starts crying and Linda feeds him and tells him things are going to change. She talks about how she's been trying to get through to him and understands that it's hard for him to be submissive. And then it turns out he's been poisoned by the food, so he won't be able to move or feel anything for a little while. Linda then heats up her knife and pulls off his pants, telling a story about how they fixed their misbehaving dog when she was a kid. She says they used to do that to Egyptian slaves to make them more obedient, and she says she's the boss now, and starts cutting. Then we find out she was only cutting a rat, not him, for now. She tells him, "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness," and now he knows she's terrifying. 2 days later, Bradley still hasn't spoken to her, so Linda leaves to find some fruit for him, but unfortunately for her, a boat arrives. A boatman with Zuri, excited to have found her, and things get complicated. On the way back to camp, Linda asks if it's just the two of them, and it is, so she leads them to the cliff where she fell earlier, and surprise, surprise, Zuri slips. The boatman holds on to her, and they beg Linda for help, but Linda does nothing, and I can no longer root for her. Linda returns to camp feeling guilty. Bradley suggests they go hunting for boar to try and cheer her up, but Linda wants to take a sick day. That night, Linda dreams about Zuri washing ashore, zombie jump scare, and the next day, Bradley goes hunting for the boar alone, but instead, he finds Zuri's hand in the sand with her engagement ring, and now Bradley is understandably upset. Although I'm not exactly sure why his first thought is immediately that Linda killed her. I wonder why she was here. But sure. He confronts Linda on the beach. She admits that Zuri fell. She could have at least tried to deny she knew anything. But she says she didn't tell him because she knew he wouldn't believe it was an accident, and he doesn't. And now he has the knife. So, things escalate. He starts chasing her, but Linda fights back, and at this point I don't even know who I'm supposed to root for. It's like, who's the lesser evil? The fight is pretty brutal. Linda even swallows Zuri's engagement ring just to spite Bradley, which is probably one of the crazier things she does in this movie. That's gotta hurt going down. She eventually stabs him, and Bradley escapes to the other side of the island, where he finds a house. And just as I suspected, there was something over there. Inside the house, Bradley finds food, supplies, and security cameras where Linda watches him. She got there fast. She talks to him over the cameras and reveals that they could have been rescued before, but everything was so perfect when it was just the two of them. But then things kept happening. Don't you hate when your crush tries to kill you and then his fiancé shows up? We then get to see what really happened when Zuri fell. Linda didn't just stand there and let it happen. She actually attacked the boatman, causing both of them to fall to their deaths. So it was more like active murder, if that means anything. She tells Bradley that it was written in the stars that they were the only two who survived the crash. I probably would have left out the part where you kill his fiancé though. Bradley then finds Linda with a shotgun, saying it could have been so good. He admits he was terrible, and she broke him, and he's changed. He's felt love for her in a way he's never felt before. And they can stay, and they can make it work. And foolishly, she believes him. Then he attacks her with a metal horn, grabs the gun, and tries to shoot her, but there's no bullets. She then hits him with a golf club, and we cut to 1 year later. Linda is now famous. She's celebrated on the news as the only survivor of the crash, found floating on a raft. She's also writing a self-help book because no help is coming. You have to save yourself. Also, her bird is still alive, so that's good. I don't know who was taking care of it the entire time, but sure. The credits also include some survival tips, which are good to know if I ever get stranded on an island, although I will be doing everything in my power to avoid that situation. And that's Send Help. I went into this expecting a horror movie, but honestly it felt more like a survival thriller with some dark comedy sprinkled in. The horror takes a long time to show up. Outside of some dream sequences, some body horror, and that nasty final fight, it's not really scary, more psychological. That being said, I still had a good time with it. The strongest part of the movie is definitely Linda and Bradley's relationship. Watching them go from coworkers who can't stand each other to reluctant survival partners to bonding for a moment there, to whatever toxic thing they had going on by the end was very entertaining. And the movie works because you're constantly changing your mind about who you dislike more. I will say I saw a lot of the twists coming. The second Linda said not to go to the other side of the island, I knew there was something over there. And the second Bradley started acting nice, I knew he was planning something. Overall, I thought it was a fun watch. Not amazing, not terrible. Just a solid survival thriller with a few messed up moments. And yeah, Linda was a little kooky, but it teaches you a lesson. Don't be a jerk to your coworkers. If you're stuck on an island, explore the entire island. Maybe don't get on planes. And don't trust anyone, I guess. Comment below what you thought of this movie, like and subscribe for recaps, deep dives, and more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.